Welcome back to the Walaway. This is Imran, Nanlawala, and I have the honor and pleasure to have my co-host here with me, Coach D. Lancaster of the Junior NBA, runs many trainings and camps for the youth in regards to basketball with many of the NBA teams. Coach D, how you doing?
How you doing? Happy to be back.
No technical difficulties this week, huh?
No, not this time. I know. I was proactive this time.
So how's everything been over the last week for you since we last caught up with you?
Made some progression. I launched my my new my brand with New Balance, which I'm very excited about that. And that's a good thing. And the NBA facilities are set to open on May 1st, which is
Really?
another good thing, and that shows progression. And I think we're all moving in the right direction. I think we're not out of the woods yet, but I think when everyone's telling us to, approach things with caution and just still follow the certain guidelines, if we still follow the guidelines and do what everyone's asking us to do, as far as staying safe and the social distance, I think that we should come out of this.
So talk to us real quick about the New Balance deal. What is it that you're going to be? How you're going to be working with them? What are you promoting?
Well, I have my my own company called D Train Express from Coach D, that originated actually in Rucker Park when I coached at Rucker Park, and just through training and traveling around the United States and the world, if you will. I was always looking for some kind of a deal, but if you're really not in the limelight like that, no sneaker company is going to really pick you up like that, because you have to have something to give back to them, And while I was directing the Sixers camp last summer, a friend of mine had asked me if I could have his son intern for me at a Sixers camp last summer. And I met him over the phone, believe it or not. I didn't know him. I interviewed him over the phone. I kind of took a chance, really, if you will, because, we're dealing with a lot of children. And, of course, we did our necessary screen checks and things like that. But, it's not so much your background check can come back great. But when you're dealing with children, you have to have a certain type of person that understands what you have to do when you're dealing with children. So I took a chance, and lo and behold, he worked out great. And I guess in return, his father had set me up with a conference call with New Balance. I didn't think it would, go anywhere. I just told him my ideas and told him what I was doing. And we went back and forth. And then they presented me with a brand ambassador position.
Wow.
For New Balance to actually have my brand be on New Balance. So depending on how it goes, we're gonna do well with it. We have some ideas because I coached at Rucker Park for so many years. In the summertime, we're gonna launch a Rucker Park brand like jersey for just different ideas on the things that I've done in life. That I want to do like a Black History Month brand in February. I just want to do some things that's just gonna grab the people's eye, and just go back to the community.
So when can we expect to find a link to the store and start shopping for some of the products?
Well, it's a link to the store on New Balance.
Okay.
You go to D-Train. I think I sent you the email regarding about that too. You would just go, and it would be D-Train Express. You would create your own account so you could add to the cart. And what we're doing too is we're gonna open up the store monthly and close it monthly, because what we want to do is we want to see what products are selling, what products are more popular. So every month we're going to have different products on there. And then I guess after like a 6-month stint, we'll see which products are the most popular, and we'll put that out there as much more, because we don't know what's really going to be the grab. Right now it's about fitness and, of course, basketball apparel. But, I want to do what everyone else does. I want to get a bikini line. I want to get everything. So we'll see what happens with how it goes monthly, and then we'll zero in on what really sells the most, and then we'll use that as our go-to product.
Congratulations on the New Balance deal, man. I'm hoping for the best for you.
Thank you.
I want to zoom in on something you said. You said when you're talking about the father of the child, and you talked about background checks and whatnot, but you said there's something else. Background check can come out great. What are some of the other things that you look for to make sure that the person is going to be the right fit for your brand, for your training, for some type of an alliance or partnership?
Engagement. You have to make sure the kids are engaged. You have to make sure the kids are learning. You have to make sure the kids have sportsmanship. And a lot of times, in this industry, coaches just stand around as it's a job. I'm one of those where I want the kid, from every coach that I have, I want every coach to understand that we're the ones who are the role models in that camp, and you have to have that mindset going in. A lot of times, let's face it, some of these summer coaching jobs, they're not really going to really pay their bills, as far as a regular coach is concerned. But you don't want a coach standing there looking at his watch, thinking that this is over. You have to understand, it's sort of like a teacher's mentality. That's kind of what the coaches I look for, because teachers get it. Teachers get it. They understand that we're entities of the parents. So that's the mentality I'm looking for. I want engagement. I want encouragement. I want, kids to feel safe. I want kids to feel like that they can go to any coach, not just the director myself. I want coaches where if I step out and go somewhere for an hour for lunch, that when I come back, the camp is running as if I'm not there. The old saying, as you're as good as your staff, really works. You're as good as your staff. So if you have a great staff around you, then you should be fine.
What's interesting is I taught English for a while, ESL, and something that's it's a known way to teach English is that, or teaching in general, is that you want to make your classroom student-centered and not teacher-centered.
Right.
So I always tell people that certain aspects of life, they're mirrored in other aspects of life. So whether it's doing business, whether it's coaching, teaching, you see so many similarities and commonalities that the mindset all has to be the same.
Yes.
So actually, let's use that as a transition to the topic at hand, which is what we wanted to talk about was paving the way for the future generation of ball players. And last week we spoke about MJ, we spoke about Hakeem. We had our all-time starting five on the screen. Yep. So let's talk a little bit about how the older generation of players, we always compare them. Sometimes we belittle them, but these guys, they really paved the way for these new generation of players. And even in a lot of ways, I was reading an article about Scottie Pippen today, and which was crazy. He signed like a super long 10-year, $18 million deal. And it said that, I think his father suffered a real severe stroke when he was young, and his brother was paralyzed. So he was looking for that long-term stability as opposed to that one-off quick deal.
So he can take care of his family. Yep.
Yeah, and some people said, the Bulls took advantage of him. I'm not saying that, but I'm just reporting what people have said. But you see now, guys, average players are making 15, 20 mil a year. High-end players are making like 30, and like the elite guys are making closer to 40. So talk about the older generation paving the way for the new generation.
Well, the older generation, that's why it's funny you say that, because I know that we're going to be doing these weekly. And I've reached out to some of the older veteran players that I know. Awesome. I'm not going to mention it yet because I don't want to get people too excited to talk about that, because, like I can recall like when I would go, because my son's 21 now. So I would take him to every All-Star game, like the All-Star game I met you at. Right. And when I would see some of the older players that I watched growing up, I would get so excited. And my son would look at me, who's that? What? Are you crazy? You don't understand. And then I would like compare those players to the players now. So I would explain to him, the player that you love now, he watched him. So it's true. So it's like, I think it's a transitional period, because that's how it's going to be. And in 15 to 20 years, they're going to be making $60 million a year, But I think that the real basketball phenoms and the basketball historians, they understand that the people like Bernard King, Larry Birds, Magic, Isaiah paved the way. Dr. J, of course, who I named my son after, paved the way for the players now. And I think that the players that are successful now are the players that understand where they came from. Does that make sense?
Of course.
And what they watched, like LeBron. Everyone can say whatever they want about LeBron, but that man is a basketball historian. He knows everything and anything you need to know about. I would love to have a long-term, old school, new school conversation with LeBron, because I know that we would touch on a lot of topics, So yes, I think that the players today should go back in time and look at the history and see that the sweat that these other older players did is why they're where they are right now.
I'll say even general, like the overall sacrifice that these guys especially, I mean, I'm not trying to make it about this, but especially like say older African American ball players that came up at the time where it was still relatively new for African Americans to be integrated in the league and some of the things that they had to deal with on the way up. And now you see, like, I mean, the league is dominated by African Americans, right?
Absolutely.
And these guys are not only accepted, they're put at the top of the pedestal.
Yes.
But you have to see what the older generation did and had to go through for these guys to be where they're at. And I think, you know, the old guys, they deserve that homage. And I'll give a shout out to Shaq. I don't know if he'll ever hear this, but one thing that love him or hate him, and as a Spurs fan, I spent a lot of time hating him. But
Really?
well, I mean, the Lakers, you know, the Lakers and the Spurs, and Shaq was, when he was the Diesel, he used to come in and destroy, you know. So we obviously not like hate in terms of anything personal, but from a basketball standpoint. But I remember when a lot of the old basketball players would die, especially the big men, I would hear and read about Shaq paying for their funerals.
Yes, he played for George Mikan's funeral.
There we go. So he paid for George Mikan's funeral, and I respected that because, you know, no matter what, you know, like what Shaq says, or sometimes he acts like he's a practical joker and whatnot, but you see the good side comes out a lot, right, in terms of how he gives back to the community, how he gives back to others. What was interesting is I had a conversation with my friend a couple of days ago. I brought him up last week. He's the one that's close to Hakeem Olajuwon, and his sons are 15, 13, and then he's got a younger son who's maybe 6 or 7. So his oldest son, Muad, his name is Muad. He's loves basketball, spends hours in the gym. He wakes up with his dad at like 5:36 in the morning. They go practice, they shoot, they run. His dad makes him deadlift, squat, all these things. His son is like, he's at 15, he's maybe like 6'1" now. He hit that growth spurt. He's slim, he's putting on some muscle. He's not explosive. So what I was telling his father to tell him was, have him watch guys who had poise, but you know, they were not known for being very quick or explosive. So I told him, I said, watch, people might laugh at this, but I said, watch Boris Diaw, because Boris Diaw was a small forward, but on the Suns and on the Spurs, even when the Spurs went to the championships in 2013, 2014, he was bringing up the ball and he was playing a lot of the point guard duties, right? And then I said, look, watch guys like John Stockton, watch guys like even Chauncey Billups, right? Chauncey Billups, as he got older, he aged like fine wine. So there's just so many guys out there who've done so much for the game and who kind of even changed the game with the way they play, but they don't really get much recognition.
It's funny you say that because I don't know if I told you this, but I coach a middle school in Brooklyn called Brooklyn Lab School in Brooklyn, and I'm on a conference call every Wednesday with head coach Lloyd Pierce from the Atlanta Hawks. And we go X and O's, not just me, just a bunch of coaches that he selects to talk to them about X's and O's. I think it's a great thing for coaches just to have the experience to chat with a head coach of an NBA team.
Of course.
So what I did was, and it's funny, I think last week, because the head coach Lloyd Pierce went to college with Steve Nash.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they played in the backcourt together. So he brought on, I didn't even know, he brought on Steve Nash as a special guest, and we went over some sets, and Steve Nash was explaining how he was maneuvering this and that, how he moved. They showed the sets. I sent that to my kids, and it's funny you said that to say, look at that. Look at the spacing. Look what he's talking about. That's the great Steve Nash talking. And I said, what you need to understand is, tell your dads, because your dads will know who it is. If you don't know who it is, your homework is, because we're there, Google him. He's an NBA MVP. Google him. So it's funny you say that, where I'm using somebody like Steve Nash, who these kids that I'm training now wasn't even born when he was playing.
Yeah.
So it's funny you say that, because it's like, and he was a 2-time NBA MVP.
Yep.
So when I sent that to the kids, they was all coming back saying, yeah, but coach, who is that? I said, I told you,
Google
him. And I told you to look at the things that he did, you know, and I didn't only send it to the guards. I sent it to the entire team.
Oh, you can learn how to play through a point guard like that.
Exactly. So it was kind of good. So now, because I have to, you know, I do schooling every day with them. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do some comparisons now. Just like we're doing today. That's going to be our next week's agenda, where I'm going to pick an old school guy and they're going to pick a new school person, and we're going to do some comparisons and the similarities. And I'm going to explain to them how that works. So it was a good segue into what we're doing today.
What's really, I know this is not the topic at hand, but I love Steve Nash, and I love him for a few reasons. Because number one, he's an athlete, but he's not very explosive.
No, it's not.
And if you see I see a lot of the guys who grew up playing soccer, Manu Ginobili, Steve Nash, Boris Diaw, Tony Parker, their footwork is amazing, right?
Yes.
And the way they see, like you said, the court vision, running the set plays and whatnot. But if like, again, Spurs fan, so I watched a lot of Steve Nash, right?
Okay.
And he made a lot of guys money. That's what I'll say. He made a lot of guys who would not have made the money they made if they were not.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about Steve Nash? What I like about him, when he was going over one of the sets, and he got by his guy, he admitted while he was describing it, he says, "Well, you see, I got by him, but I was a little lazy on that play. I could have been a little bit more explosive and got to the rim a little quicker." He made the basket, and while he was discussing that, going through the set with us, he even admitted that he was a little lazy on that play. That he could have, and I just really, really appreciated that he was, one, honest, and two, that he was really, really about his craft. I really, really appreciate that. And again, whatever my kids took from it, I really don't know because I'm not with them in the classroom setting now, except for these Zoom virtual classes that we have. But that's why I encourage them to get their fathers or mothers involved, because I would assume that the parents would have known who Steve Nash is, and then especially if they're basketball, fans, So it was just good it was good for the kids to see that now, so they could understand, where the Ben Simmons and who was the Kyle Lowrys and the Russell Westbrooks of the day, they're all point guards, and Steve Nash was one of the greatest.
So, to people like my friend Abdullah Hassan Muad, what structured advice do you have? Give them 3 points. What are three pieces of advice or homework you want him to do?
As far as his basketball game?
Yep.
1, conditioning.
Okay.
2, he has to know his limitations. And when I say that is, like I always say this. If you're going to a tryout, whether it's AAU, college, or NBA, if you're not a 3-point shooter, don't shoot 3-pointers. You understand? You have to do what you do best in order to get on that team. And to get on the team, you have to make the coach understand and say, I could use him for that or for multiple things. So I would say conditioning 1. I would say know what he really can do and know what he really can't do. And what he can do best, do that the best you can do and make that your best thing. And then work on your limitations. Work on your limitations. It's awkward. Like a lot of times, there's a lot of righties in the world. If you already know you have your right hand down, then you should only work on your left hand. Those are the things you don't work on the things that you do best. Don't do that. To work on the things that when you know your limitations, right? Those are the things that you work on. Like I tell all my students, when we come back to this, hopefully we come back to this. I don't know about this year, but when I see them in the summer, I'm going to know who was working and who wasn't. I'm going to know. I'm going to know right off the rip. But those are the things that I think he should work on. Definitely conditioning.
Okay.
Know his limitations, and work on whatever you're limited on, and then just perfect your craft to the fullest. Those are the 3 things.
Okay, so
that
now
all coincides. Because if you're not in shape, then you can't work on anything because you're going to be slower. Things are not going to work the way you want it to work. So that's first and foremost, and just working hard.
Okay, so now he's again like 15, 6 foot, not very explosive, but he's working on his poise. He's got finesse. He's got the drive. He's getting stronger and bigger.
Okay.
So I told him to watch a little bit of Boris Diaw. I told him to watch Chauncey Billups. Who are the few guys that you would recommend someone like him to watch?
And you said, now what did you say? He's not that explosive.
He's not that explosive, but he needs to handle the ball more.
And he needs to handle the ball more.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me see. So I wanted somebody who's not that explosive but effective. He's not going to be a big guy though, right?
He's in between right now. We don't know.
You know who I would watch? Who's not really that explosive, but his the guy from Dallas, Luka
Doncic. Okay.
Yeah, because he's not blow by explosive, but he is so effective with his step back, and his step back is so slow, and he has it. I would watch him, watch his footwork, watch the way he moves, because he's not that explosive, but he's very, very effective. I would watch the guy from Denver too. the big man.
Oh, Jokic.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, he's effective as well, and he's not that explosive, but he's a difference maker in the game.
Mm.
And it's not about his explosiveness. It's not. Russell Westbrook is explosive.
Yeah.
You know, there's no stopping him.
Mm.
You know, let me see who else is.
How about from the old school?
Oh, the old school. I don't. All right, I would say Sidney Moncrief.
Mm.
Sidney Moncrief would lock you up. Sidney Moncrief was effective on the court as far as defense. I would say somebody like Ricky Pierce.
Mm.
Ricky Pierce was, and I'm good friends with Tony Campbell, and Tony Campbell was when we was in All-Star in New Orleans. I seen Ricky Pierce. I almost fell out. And I was like, oh, my God, he was an assassin when I seen him. And Tony Campbell told me, he says, listen, man, when we would go play, I think he played for Seattle, right, Ricky Pierce? I think he played for Seattle. He said the coach would only have defensive stops to stop Ricky Pierce. And this is Tony Campbell who played against him, you know.
Mm.
So I would say Ricky Pierce. I would say Sidney Moncrief. I would say, who else? Maurice Cheeks. Maurice Cheeks was very, very efficient at the point guard position. So you get.
Well, I was going to ask you, why was a guy like Sam Cassell in his older age? Why was he still so effective? You know, he had a lot of back issues. He was not a very big point guard. He was not a small point guard. It was a bit thin. But why do you think someone like Sam Cassell was so effective?
His basketball IQ is like up there.
Mm.
Sam Cassell has a great basketball IQ. And you know what else you can notice?
Mm.
And this is how the NBA works. If you notice, most of the coaches, whether they became on the bench or their head coaches, they always had a great basketball IQ.
Right.
Think about it. Tyrone Lue,
Steve Kerr,
Maurice Cheeks, right? Sam Cassell, he's on the bench. Doc Rivers, right? Those guys' basketball IQ on the court was up here. And they got on benches, and it's like I'm not Steve Kerr. I'm not really that surprised. Mark Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you notice, most of them are all point guards. Most of them are all point guards. You know,
you got Patrick on the bench. You got
Patrick on the bench.
You got Tim Duncan on the bench now. I mean, guys, again, not very athletic, but very effective, very efficient, high intelligent, good footwork. So guys who were analytical. Right,
like players like Michael Jordan and Magic. I can't expect them to be head coaches because they played at such a higher level.
Yeah. Yep.
And their expectation level is going to be so high that it might frustrate them to no end. So I don't expect Magic or Mike or God rest the dead, my man Kobe, to be head coaches. But if you notice that the ones who are coaches always had a high basketball IQ, and I think that's really why Sam Cassell succeeded so much when he got older, because his IQ was. You know, you got to remember when Sam Cassell won when he first came into the league. He was off the bench. He killed my Knicks. I remember. Houston. I didn't even. That's actually where I started watching who this guy is. I'm like, who's this guy coming off the bench like that? I tell you a story. It's funny. When they was playing the Knicks in the finals, Sam Cassell was a young rookie, and I never forget this. And I was a season ticket holder for the Knicks, and he was coming out of the Garden thinking that, you know, they just beat us. And he walked like down 34th Street like it was no big deal. Somehow, me, the basketball historian that I am, I spot him, of all people. That's that dude who hit that three on us. He can't be walking around here like that. I had everybody like chasing Sam Cassell. I'll never forget that. I mean, not to harm him, but just where he was walking a little faster, we was walking a little faster, and I was leading the pack. I never forget that. As a Knicks fan, we was one of them crazy Knicks fans, man. We got to get him out of here. He can't walk around here like that after he hit all those threes on us. Yeah, he was, and then he was like, because he just walked out the Garden like it was nothing. You know, he was a rookie, so he didn't know how New York, I guess, was at the time, but they beat us in one of those games, and we didn't really like it too much.
So then we got a few minutes left, so I'm gonna let you wrap it up again. We talked a little bit about your New Balance deal.
Yep.
We talked about the older generation paving the way for the new guys. We made some comparisons from old school to new school. We also had the advices to the youth in terms of who to watch, what to, the three things to work on. So I'm gonna give you the closing few minutes to close us out.
Well, as far as paving the way, that's one thing that I would say to all these newcomers, college, AAU. You need to know your history when you are approaching your craft. All of those step back moves, all of those backdoor moves, all of that came from somewhere else. That came from somewhere else. No one just, Kobe didn't just wake up and start doing that fadeaway. He watched Mike. Vince Carter didn't just wake up and start dunking. He watched Dr. J. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would close with, especially because the whole thing is about paving the way. Know your history. Use this time to use the internet. Use this time to Google some of the old school players. Yeah, they're going to have on the tight shorts and all that, but you're going to learn. You're going to learn. This is the time right now that people should be utilizing what we have. And the World Wide Web is a beautiful thing if you use it the right way. So that's what I would say as far as paving the way and in closing. Just know the history and know where things come from. That's why it's so great to see LeBron talk about history at the basketball game, because he knows. He knows. That's why Shaq pays for George Mikan's funeral, because he's paying homage. He understands. There'll be no Shaq if it wasn't for George Mikan. So that's what I would say in closing. Just look up your history, even though it might be boring because it's not they're not jellying and whatever, the Euro stepping and doing all that stuff now. But if you notice that all came from something else. Everything segues into something else. So I think the players nowadays, if they would look and see how things originated and how things evolved, I think that'll be better players. I think there'll be better players like that.
Coach D, again, you're my new co-host. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
This is great.
Man, we're going to be doing it every week, Walaway listeners. So make sure you guys tune in. We should be back for our normal schedule by next week, which is on Friday evening at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And every week we'll be covering different topics relevant to the youth. We'll be analyzing basketball, analyzing old school, new school, making some comparisons. We had a nice talk last week about MJ and Hakeem. This week you saw us make some comparison between the point guards. So tune in every week, and we look forward to seeing you guys again.
Yes, and look for a surprise guest next week.
I'm surprised too, so we'll look forward to it. All right, Coach. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Thank you.
No problem.